few days ago, I experienced something that I could only explain as like a spiritual growth spurt. You know, it's kind of like the feeling I expected when I was younger, and I was baptized, dunked in the water, and brought back up. I expected to feel, like a spiritual growth spurt, but I felt nothing. I was like, huh, that's weird. But anyway, what happened was it was the night before my birthday, October 30th, and I was going to sleep. And before I fell to sleep, I was thinking like I do, and I was thinking about God, and I formed the thought of God in my mind with my consciousness. I formed the thought of who God is, and like I even like I had that eternal, like I was in the realm of the like an eternal realm of thought, like thinking of an eternal realm and who that person is that exists there, as an eternal element of consciousness. God's been the same for eternity, even though this reality is going on. Before God created anything, they existed basically for an entire eternity. Because in eternity, there's no beginning, So it's an eternity. Before anything existed, God existed for eternity as an element of consciousness, And God had a name this whole time. And since the human words didn't exist yet, to say God's name, you use your consciousness. Because that's God's original language, is consciousness, conscious thought, And it makes sense when you look at our true Bible, which is nature and all that God created. You observe anything God created, and you get a conscious understanding in your mind. There's no words, but it's a conscious understanding, And the more you observe and the more you understand, the more understandings you get. The more of it like an education in what God created. The more you educate yourself in this realm of thought, the more understandings you get, and the more understandings you get, the more of the questions you're able to answer. And like one of the main questions everybody asks is like, who's God? That's a big one, A lot of religious people still asking that question. A lot of people that believe in God still ask that question because, it's like a path in life that leads to God, But anyways, to say God's true name, you have to use your consciousness. Kind of sucks I can't speak it. Like I was finally able to say God's name with my consciousness the night before my birthday, I fell asleep saying it, woke up saying it, And it just sucks I can't speak it. Nobody can hear me say it. It's in my consciousness. When I speak God's name, it's a conscious thought of who they are, That's their name because that's their language or whatever. Anyways, it's a path in life that leads to, understanding who God is. Before you can speak God's name, you have to understand who God is. And basically, all kinds of shit about God. You have to understand all kinds of shit about God. All kinds of shit. And once you have an understanding of who God is, a complete understanding, you can speak their name. And I don't think I have to explain to you why that's important, why the name of God would be important, because I'm sure inwardly, it's important. Everybody does. But anyways, like I said, it was like a spiritual growth thing. And I'm talking about, understandings and the elements and stuff like that, bringing you closer to God. And here's the thing, like, if you're baptized by water, you understand water. I understand water. There's understandings of water that I have, And here's a little simple trick. It's not a magic trick or nothing. It's just a little simple trick. If you're baptized by water, You know what I mean? If you're baptized by water, this will be really easy for you. You know what I mean? You should be able to do that if you're baptized by water. Because you have the understandings needed. You know what I mean? Same with the other elements. Like, let's say fire, for example. Fire is like a single breath. You know what I mean? And for this fire to burn you, it has to grab you. Once it grabs you, it starts to burn you. So, I couldn't find a candle. I want to use a candle, but I'll just use this instead. Fire. To put your hand over it, it would burn you, obviously. But a little trick is you move like you're cold. When you're cold, you shiver. And when you do that in the specific pattern, you create a little wind tunnel that takes this and moves it this way. Moves it this way. You know what I mean? Instead of going up, it goes this way. And I'll just show you a little magic trick. It's not magic at all. It's basically science. It's an understanding of how shit works. And yeah, I can basically do this shit all. It's just a little magic trick. It's not even magic at all. It's just an understanding. And if you're baptized in fire, you should be able to do that too. You know. All I'm saying is, there's understandings in everything God created. You need to get it. You need to get it so you can say God's name. And yes, it is an instinctive path that leads to, you know, all knowledge of God and stuff like that. And the knowledge of being able to say God's name. So the fact that I can do it lets me know that other people on this planet can also do it. So I'm not alone, you know what I mean? But it is an instinctive path that a lot of people don't live anymore because a lot of people aren't in nature, you know, studying God's creation and stuff like we used to be before civilization. But now we're in boxes driving cars and we just don't get the teachings that God, you know, placed on this planet for us to have so we could strengthen our minds and understand this reality that they created and eventually understand who they are and be able to speak their name, you know? In any case, it's a path in life that leads to God's name. I guess I'll show these equations again, since I like showing my equations on videos. But yeah, to be able to speak God's name, you have to gain the understandings that they've created, you know? They put in their creation. And it's just like a they're an element of consciousness, so that's their language. You observe something they created, you get a conscious understanding of like whatever, you know, and then that conscious thought, that's their language. Anyways, and then meditation. You just think about their understandings. You get all understandings, you think about it in your head. And after you think about it long enough, it grows into knowledge. And knowledge is just putting words to what you already know. It's like, oh, I know something, and you add words to it. That's knowledge. You can share it. In our Bible, you know, mind plus nature, that's our Bible. You observe everything God created, that's our Bible. And God's language is consciousness, so you're getting a conscious thought from your observations. That's how God speaks. Wisdom equals life over time. As you age, you get wiser, and that's just the path in life you have to live. Maybe you have to make the right decisions, maybe you don't. I don't really know. But it's a path in life. You know? Everything's a path in life. And that's what wisdom is. Soul equals life divided by growth. Does it matter who you grow into? Yes, I think it does. The person you are right now, can you grow into someone better? You should if you can. If you do an action if you do something that's jacked up, you know, you'll experience negative growth. You should avoid that. So, that's the whole soul equation. You're growing. Your soul's growing. Just acknowledge it. That's it. Just acknowledge it. Evolution equals life divided by reproduction. I put evolution in here because, you know, either you have kids or you don't, and that's evolution. That's how we got to this point. We've evolved from, you know, the spark of life that turned into all life on this planet, and now us humans exist, you know? We got here because of evolution. It's good to acknowledge that it exists, you know what I mean? And if you are religious and you think that God used magic to create all life or whatever, just realize God has no concept of time, you know? So if God were to, let's say, spend 4 billion years to create humans with no concept of time and used evolution, you know, because that's what obviously happened. That's what they obviously used was evolution to make humans, you know, it's obvious. But the fact that it was 4 billion years and a book says that it was a day, if God said it was a day, you got to realize they're an eternal being. How does an eternal being look at time? To begin and to end, a day, you know? They really don't care how many times the earth spins. They really don't. Anyways, yeah, it's a path in life that leads to being able to speak God's name, so I know these equations aren't God's name, obviously, but They are the path that leads to knowing God's name. So anyways, I would like to be able to speak God's name so you can hear it, but I just can't, and it really sucks. So I want you to hear God's name, but you're gonna have to live that path in life that leads to knowing God's name. It's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be quick. It's gonna take. I'm gonna estimate at least a decade. It took me 42 years, so maybe you're almost there. So maybe you just need a day or two, maybe a week or a month or a year. I don't know where you are in life on the knowledge of who God is that you've gained through their creation. I don't know. Maybe you spend a lot of time in the wilderness and you already understand a lot of things that you need to understand to say God's name, Or maybe you don't spend a lot of time in the wilderness and you've been in your house all day and you don't really go outside at all. It'll take you a little bit longer. It just depends on where you are at in life. In any case, I recommend you search for that understanding so that you can say God's name with your consciousness, speak their language, say it in their language. God's language is consciousness. Conscious thought is God's language. In any case, I am schizophrenic. I acknowledge that. So I'm just going to say, maybe I'm delusional as hell. I'm either delusional as hell or smart as hell, or a little bit of both. It's hard to tell sometimes, So just, if you understand what I'm saying, then you can believe it. If you don't understand what I'm saying, don't believe it. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about. Believing what you understand. Because that's the only path to the truth.